Hello. Hey, what's up, garden friends? How's everybody doing? I hope you're good. I am great. Talk about the Janet Craig. What I should say, this is the Dracaena Janet Craig Compacta. And you can see the names right here on the tags. Well, at least on this tag you can. Grabbed this guy several weeks ago from my local hardware store, big box store. I think it was either Lowe's or Home Depot. I don't really remember. But you can see here, nice looking plant. Nice glossy foliage. Actually gives the full name, whereas this guy over here just says I heart medium light and improve air quality, which is true. These are a pretty common houseplant and generally pretty affordable when you get them in these smaller sizes. I picked up this little guy for $3.98, and then when I was at Walmart a couple weeks ago, I stumbled upon this one. $5. Looking at these, it's pretty obvious which one is a better deal. I'm not saying size matters, but I mean, kind of does. More bang for your buck in this one, that's for sure. Okay, I'm sorry. I still love you. You know you're tiny. Since they're such a common houseplant, I thought this would be a good thing to talk about in a video. The regular Janet Craig Dracaena gets fairly large. The foliage looks very different from this. Looks kind of like the corn plant Dracaenas, but it's all green and glossy, and it's a floor plant. Whereas these guys, as the name suggests, compacta, stay pretty small, and they grow fairly slowly. They really do make an excellent houseplant. I'll talk about why. Well, for starters, they look nice. They have a nice texture to them, beautiful glossy green foliage, and they're fairly low fuss. They don't need super bright, intense light. In fact, filtered light is going to be better for them. A nice bright location, but not in a window where the sun's beaming directly onto them, not for more than maybe a few hours anyways. And that's going to vary from location to location and latitude, altitude. There are all kinds of variables with lighting, but basically it's, as it says over here, loves medium light, and that's really all there is to it. Just don't cook it and don't keep it in the dark. Sometimes finding kind of the happy balance with how to water these guys can be a little bit tricky, but really it's just you don't want them to stay dry for a very long time, and you don't want them to be sopping wet. Yellowing foliage can be an indicator that things are too wet. It can also be an indicator that things are too dry. It's kind of the same thing with browning tips. That can be an indicator that things are a little bit too dry in the air, low humidity. Over time, these will grow up and up and up, having a really, really cool appearance, kind of like a palm tree. They'll hold on to this foliage as long as it wants to, or as it starts to age out, you can just go ahead and pull it off and it'll expose the fun little ring trunk. These do well with the balanced all-purpose fertilizer, something like a 10-10-10, 14-14-14, 20-20-20, somewhere in there. The numbers don't all have to be the same. That can be applied monthly, and a slow release mixed down into the soil, also a great idea. To avoid overwatering, you can always take a wooden skewer and poke it down in there, pull it up. You'll be able to see what areas of the soil are wet versus dry. There'll be a change in color on the stick. That way you know you're not watering it sooner than you need to. You can let them dry out all the way in between waterings, but it's not really ideal. You can let that soil, maybe I would say about 25 to even 50% of the way, and then water again, though they have a brief drought tolerance, and that also is going to depend on where you live, your climate and whatnot. My experience with these guys has been to make sure I probably water them about weekly. I let the soil dry just a little bit up top and make sure that they have good drainage. Of course, I always want to make sure the water is running out the bottom of the pot, but at the same time, my sister has one of these, and I know she does not water it very often, but it's alive and she's had it for years. Grown very tall. For a Janet Craig Compacta, it's probably about yay high with a fun little trunk on it, and I don't think it's been repotted ever. Now, that's not true. I repotted it for a few years ago, but its pot's not much larger than this. Though that's never ideal. That's the point of this video. How to grow them and keep them thriving. One thing I will say about these guys is they are dust magnets. Every now and then, taking a damp sponge or cloth that even use some water that has just a little bit of soap in it, you can wipe the foliage down and get that dust off of there. That's going to help increase how well the plant photosynthesizes, and air can be exchanged, transpiration, all of those things. Those are important things to do for a healthy plant. All house plants, not just this one, but like I said, it's a bit of a dust magnet. At least that's been my experience. Because of their smaller size, that's one of the things I think makes these great for in the house. You can put them on shelves, you can put them on tabletops. It's not something that's going to take up a lot of real estate on the floor, or really just about anywhere. And something to keep in mind with the Dracaenas is that widely, the majority of them, if not all of them, they're considered to be toxic to dogs and cats. I forgot to look into the toxicity to humans, but in general, just keep your plants where anybody that might eat them or creature, just keep it out of reach. Better safe than sorry. And cats enjoy these. I will say that. The tips of these leaves, that grass-like foliage, a lot of cats and dogs tend to sniff plants and know which ones to stay away from. but I have seen plenty of occasions where cats will chew these up. So be careful with that. It does the foliage is enticing to a cat. For nice uniform growth, it's a good idea to make sure to rotate these weekly. Even bi-weekly is probably okay. Go ahead and do it either halfway to a quarter of the way, depending on how often you're doing it. But I found that usually doing it 50% is generally enough. Because what can end up happening is you'll have one side of these plants that have longer foliage than the other side because one side's stretching more for light than the other, and that makes them look kind of wonky. So to keep that nice symmetrical shape and straight growth, more light, and consistency is always an important thing with really everything, especially plants and animals. Give them a little rotate every now and then to help keep things nice and even. Mealybugs also seem to enjoy these guys an awful lot. You can use insecticidal soaps, oils, and things like that to help control that. If it gets really bad, then repot them, take them out of the soil completely. Clean the roots off. You can use a mild bleach dilution, something like maybe a capful of bleach to a gallon of water. Look that up though, because there's various dilution rates out there. To sanitize things, sanitize the pots, use fresh soil, and repot them. That's if it's a really bad infestation. One of the things that I really do like about smaller, more compact houseplants is that if something should arise where they have pests on them, then you can take these to the sink or to the shower and blast that stuff off of there. It's not an immediate cure for the issue, but it helps get them off of there. Whereas I'm in a grow space out here where if I were to use water pressure to blast the bugs off of things, it's just going to blast the bugs onto other things. And it'd have to be a very strong pressure to kill them. That could damage the plant tissues as well. Like that in the shower, make sure the water's not freezing cold or piping hot. Blast those suckers right off the plant. They're a nice, fun, easy plant. Watch out for yellowing in the leaves. That can mean too much water. You'll know it means too much water if the soil's sopping wet. If there's yellowing, the soil's super dry. That probably means that it needs more water. Sometimes intense airflow and things like that can cause discoloration, but you usually start to see that on the tips of the foliage first. Same thing with not enough light. If the leaves are really, really stretched out and there's a lot of space along the trunk, and then sometimes some browning and leaves will start to drop from the plant, that can be an indication that they're not getting enough light also. I think it's fun how the top of them looks kind of like a pineapple. Okay, there's not a lot to it. They're a really simple plant. They're not super demanding. They're easy to care for, medium light, medium water, make sure there's drainage in the pot. Monthly fertilizings, any houseplant, good idea to repot them. Maybe with these guys, probably every other year would be just fine, but if you start to notice that they seem to be going downhill and you cannot figure out why, go ahead and repot them. Maybe the soil's just become totally barren, or there could be something else going down and they're completely different, but it's just get them out of the soil, try something new. Because of that slow growth, they can remain in a small pot for a long time, so it's easy to forget that it's a good idea to give them something fresh every now and then. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. If you were wondering, Janet's from Puerto Rico. Caribbean islands, understory type plant, not something that you typically see out in scorching sun. The more sun they get, the more short that foliage is going to be, and generally the more compact the plant as well. It's a fun, easy plant. I think it's worth giving a try. I would say key to success, don't overwater it. Better dry than too wet, because that's when you get root rot, and when they dry out, as long as it's not for an incredibly long time, typically you can revive them and rehydrate them. What have you guys been doing with your Janet Craigs? Do you have any? Some experiences? You had problems? Tips and tricks, let me know. Comment down below. Hit me up on Instagram at Tropical Plant Party. I'll follow you back. I love seeing everybody's pictures and what's going on there, and sometimes it's just an easier way to communicate. The comments don't always notify me. I should say it notifies me, but it doesn't notify me if I reply and then you reply back. That I don't get notifications for. Anyways, both ways are a good way to get in touch, get a conversation going, talk about houseplants. I love seeing the comments and everybody talking down there, being fun fellow plant nerds. But yeah, I have all my social media linked down below. Don't forget to leave the video a thumbs up. It helps a lot. I noticed it. It makes a big difference, so thank you so much for doing that. I do appreciate it. And subscribe as well. Upload multiple times a week, so don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you know when new videos come out. All right, Janet, that's enough of you. It's time to go. I hope everybody's doing well. And as always, and most importantly, everybody, keep on growing. Bye-bye.